For example, what are the odds you jump in the water with full clothes on? So that's a pretty hard dare. Like, so they'd pick a number they'd say 1 through, let's say 100, right? 1 through 100. So then we go 1, 2, 3, and we both say a number from 1 through 100. And if it's the same number, then that person has to do the dare. If it's not, then it's done.
What are the odds? Otherwise known as Odds On, is a game popularised in 2014 that combines the traditional game of Truth or Dare with a form of gambling. Odds On is a dare game which involves a person issuing a dare to another person. The recipient of the dare would state a certain number, usually between 1 and 10, but dependent on the riskiness of the dare, may go higher. This demonstrates the likeliness of the person being willing to perform the dare. One person then counts the other 2 people down from 3. After the countdown, the darer and the recipient must say a number through 1 and the chosen number. For example, if they said 115, the number would have to fall between that. If both participants say the number at the same time, then the participant selected to complete the dare must perform the dare.
I have heard of the game Odds On before. The game Odds On is basically, if somebody sees an opportunity for a dare, then they will say, give me a number. And then you will say 10, maybe. And then if you both say the same number, in between 10, in 1 and 10, then you will, the person, will have to do the dare. I have played the game Odds On many, many times. Personally, I have never won a game of Odds On, therefore making me having to do a lot of different kind of dares, such as snorting curry powder. The worst thing I was dared to do ever has got to be eat a bit of flour. First time I heard of the game Odds On was my brother Harry. He literally said Odds On to me and I didn't have a clue what he was talking about, and he explained it. I'm most likely to play this game at home. I would do something that could possibly be dangerous, however I would not do it to a certain extent where it could damage me a lot. If I get a prize of my choice for doing something, it would have to be along the right lines, as in I would not jump off a cliff. The game could be dangerous for people who are a bit dumb. They could be dared to do something bad and then they would do it. The game shouldn't be banned in schools, but it should have limits. The limits should be such as a PG kind of game, as in go and tell a teacher. The game could have originated from Truth or Dare, because it's dares. There is a gambling aspect, such as the odds bit, because in gambling there's odds. The people who play this game may be doing it for attention, but also may not, such as I don't play for attention because I do it just for the fun. But yes, they could.
Okay, Alfie, odds on you doing a dance medley to a New Kids on the Block song.
Oof, I like New Kids on the Block, so 10.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, 7.
The origin to the game is pretty unknown by many sources on the internet. Some making assumptions with no evidence, others not hazarding a guess. There are many sources found that could have posed as an influence for the game, no matter how different they may seem to the game in the long run. There are many likes of Harvey Dent from Batman franchise and The Dice Man, a book by George Cockford that shows characters that leave their decisions up to chance. The Harvey Dent character doing this by flipping a coin. The Dice Man does this with dice. A similar example would be Monica and Chandler in the highly popular television series Friends, Season 5, Episode 23 and 24, where the characters are in Vegas and playing a casino game, poker, where they decide if they roll a specific number on the dice that they will be married. Other influences could have from the likes of Jackass and YouTubers who make their videos, like the Janoskians. The influence from these sources can come from the riskiest of some, if not all, the things they can do in the videos, but instead with an added chance factor, which in some ways can make the game seem more of a thrill-seeking activity.
It just got interesting.
I've never heard of the game Odds On before. So Odds On to me sounds like it probably could be quite dangerous, probably most definitely, given that the wrong people are setting the dares. I mean, it could be played completely innocent, but obviously, again, all it takes is one twisted person to just take that step too far.
What are the odds that you put that rock in your mouth?
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10, right? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 7.
He slows down.
He always picks 7.
He chooses the same number.
You have to put it in your mouth, dude.
Wait,
That's
just clean it up.
gross.
Wait, he chooses.
What are the odds you jump off this balcony right here? 1 to 5.
Hey, that's my life on the line, but okay. Okay.
3, 2, 1,
3. Shirtless or not? Dick's big as shit. Let's go.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yo, he really is.
He really doing that though. He really doing that.
Be careful, please.
Lizzie, what are the odds that you will grab somebody's hand while they're walking by and just walk with them?
1 in 5.
1, 2, 3, 3. Damn. You have to do it.
I have to do it.
You have to go do it.
Does it have to be a couple or does it have to be a girl or?
You're gonna make it a couple by holding their hand, so.
No, I don't think any of my views have changed since watching the videos. Again, I do feel like, they probably wouldn't be on any site like YouTube or anything like that if it was an extreme version of it, because it certainly wouldn't be allowed, especially if it caused harm to someone. So, but again, on social media, you might find something that's been posted which is a lot worse. So, yeah, just in the wrong hands, again, it could be horrible. I've never heard of a scenario, and I've not been called to any scenarios or anything like that, but it wouldn't surprise me if it has happened multiple times. Obviously, again, depending on the circumstances, we wouldn't be allowed to talk about it either, depending on the case. There's no laws in particular that have been put in place, but police do have powers. So, for example, we have a power to enter a premises if there is risk of life or limb. So if, for example, someone had called in that there was a dangerous game of Odds On being played in a property, then basically you get your big red key out and you're going to go in there and you're going to go save the person that's potentially in danger. I don't necessarily think that it would help to have any laws put in. For example, you look at drugs. They're illegal, yet people still do it. Therefore, trying to make it illegal is it going to help it in any case? It's not. There's no preventative measures to help stop it just by making it illegal either. I think the best way to stop people from playing the game would be to just educate people, going into schools, especially if it is mainly a younger audience that are watching these sort of videos. You would try and educate them into just how dangerous it can be. Obviously you would get paramedics, police involved to go into the schools and discuss it, and they probably would give scenarios of where it's actually happened and where it's gone terribly wrong. Odds on, I feel like, could be dangerous, given the wrong people playing. For example, if someone was dared to go jump in front of a bus and try and get away from it as quickly as possible, like say just miss it, obviously they're putting their life on the line. But I do feel like there would be a lot of people that wouldn't take it to the extreme, but for social media purposes, people definitely would. I don't think there would be any proper way to enforce it. Again, it'd just be talking to parents, making sure they're keeping an eye on kids if they're doing it, talking to people that are known to play the game. Again, there'd be no way to particularly enforce it, because there's no way, because it's such a spontaneous game, you'd never know if someone's playing it or not. I would not have a clue where it originated from. No idea. With that one, it was originated in Russia, and it was people do it for money. It was kids often doing it for money, because you think how hard it is to get a job as a kid. And it was just a group of sickos that were running it, and then they would do like illegal things like hacking into their computers, finding stuff on the person, so they had to do the dare, otherwise they'd be blackmailed into releasing it. Blue Whale. But there was a lot of it, it's a few years ago now, must have been about 3-4 years ago, and you used to get it where the signature thing was these young girls and boys were cutting a blue whale into their arm to show that they were playing it.
Was that just in Russia? Or
It was all over the world, but it was sort of originated from Russia.
Oh my god, I didn't know that one. That does, I'm not gonna lie, it does kind of sound similar to Odds On.
Odds on you eating a spoonful of flour, since you said that's your worst one you've ever had to do. Okay?
Out of 20.
Out of 20. 3, 2, 1, 4.
15.
Oh, okay. What about odds on you eating some dog biscuits from the dog bowl?
I'll give you 10.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, 9.
Oh my god.
Go on.
Shut up.
Yes. The game is basically about doing dares, pretty much. You say to someone, odds on 1 out of 10, and you both count on 3, say on 3 out of the 10. If you both say the same number, then you've got to do the dare. Yeah. I've had one dare for me to jump off of a container. Well, they said jump off, but instead I held myself down and then pushed off. So I said I was jumping off instead. I think one of them was to climb a roof of a school. Yeah. Worst thing I've had to do is that's kind of tough because I can't really remember it, but I think it was having to hit someone without them knowing why I hit them. I don't really know, I only came across it in secondary school. It's stupid anyway. I don't really think anyone should be playing it, to be honest. No, nope. It's not worth risking my life. Oh yeah, totally. Well, I mean, some people can have different sense of humours, so some people could find somebody else's pain funny, or someone being in trouble funny. And that kind of varies how the game is interpreted. So it's kind of off and on between alright stuff and bad stuff. Oh yeah, totally. I've heard of it, but I can't really remember what it's about. The game can get out of hand, but people do have self-control. But what you've said about the Blue Whale Challenge, about people blackmailing, pretty much, it's sort of different, because in the odds-on game, you can obviously have a bet and whatnot, but you can always end up having an argument with someone and stopping the argument. But they don't have anything to back up something to make you do something. But with the Blue Whale Challenge, then you've just got no way out of it unless you want that thing spreaded. Gambling, definitely. Gambling, risk taking. Daring is just truth or dare type thing, because that's how that originated, daring. Like, I don't know, it's truth or dare is just either say a truth, be honest, or do a dare that's stupid. You've got those 50-50 odds. Everybody's got a chance of winning or losing. It's just one of those things that people like. It's the adrenaline that builds up inside them for the possible chance of winning or losing.
The question we are trying to answer is whether or not this game poses as a hazard, and if it should be banned. And if it should it be banned solely in schools or globally? We took our question to finding examples of events that have happened in the outcome of playing this game.
No, I haven't. I would say it's probably a game that's trending on the internet, and it's about someone putting a bet on something and making somebody do something. We don't tend to look at dares and games like that, merely because the age of children that I work with, they don't tend to play games like that. So we've looked more into prevent duty and radicalisation, how to safeguard children from being radicalised. And radicalisation means being influenced by terrorists to go over to a terrorist country and perform terrorist acts. And we look more into that and more of the signs of maybe a child being influenced and radicalised, and what we can do to prevent that and safeguard that child and those people involved in that situation. Everybody needs to be trained, so everyone goes through training, and no matter where you are, so teachers will go through a university degree, and then they will also do a PCGE or whatever area they want to cover, and then they have to be trained in everything, so they have to be aware of similar things like prevent duty, safeguarding. Teachers will become aware of trending activities, so I believe it was last year, year before, children were eating like washing up tablets. Schools were then made aware, and there was action plans put into place to prevent children from playing that game, and there was assemblies and classes for education to inform children how to be safe and why this game is not acceptable and dangerous and harmful to people who are playing it. I would say children most likely, and young people in secondary school, merely because they are more influenced. They are most likely to follow a trend, because especially nowadays people are looking to be trendy. People are looking to have the followers, the likes, the shares. So people are most likely going to follow a game that is trending to get that attention from people and that social media fame. So I would say it's most likely going to be people in secondary school. I mean, anything that we do is a risk. Anything we do, even just stepping outside a door, we are taking a risk, because we can contract diseases from anywhere at any moment. Anything could happen. A car could lose control whilst you're walking down the street. Anything can happen. But obviously, I don't think it's probably the smartest idea, and I think there are probably safer dares or maybe safer games to be playing. But I'd be more concerned if they were dared to put a needle in their arm that they found on the floor than a rock. Although it can be dangerous. I mean, there's choking hazards, there's also contamination. There is no idea, that we have no idea what is on that rock, where that rock has come from. We don't know if it's been urinated on by an animal or another human being. So there is plenty of risks, and there are possibilities that the child is going to come to harm. But I believe that that is something that we do when we were younger. We put rocks in our mouths, we eat mud. I mean, I work in a nursery, so I'm constantly finding children finding leaves on the floor. They put toys in their mouths, they put their feet in their mouth, and they're walking on the floor. So there is constantly contamination. It then just builds up an immune system for them. So putting a rock in their mouth is no different than what they probably would have done when they were 2. I feel like there should be assemblies either way. So if this game exists or not, there should be assemblies of how to be safe. There should be classes on how to be safe when they're not at home and when they're not in school, and also when they are at home and at school, because anyone can play this game anywhere by the sounds of it. You could play it in your room. I mean, someone could odd you on, what's the odds that you're going to jump out your window? Like, anything could happen with this game. But I feel like there should be education anywhere on how to be safe. I mean, when I was in school, we used to watch plays and theatre performances on bullying and road safety, drinking and driving, and drug use. So there was always education, and whenever there was a trend that was developed, we were informed, whether it be in a formal assembly that we'd all go to the hall to gather around, or whether it would be education within our tutor groups in the morning and in the afternoon, where we then have to research and then make ourselves aware, and also talk to our tutor on how things became dangerous and how things can become harmful to us. Yes, potentially by the uneducated people and people who are fearless and don't have that fear factor, then yes, I think this game could be potentially dangerous. I don't think it should be banned. I think there should be set rules in place, and I feel it should be a game that is played sensibly, because Truth or Dare is a game that has existed for many, many years, and I believe that game is going to continue to live on in the game world. But I also think there's new adaptations to these games, but I do think there should be strict rules, and people should be educated on how serious their dares can be, so then people can play it safely and have fun. I believe it probably originated from quite a few places, like you said, gambling. If somebody is a gambling man or a gambling woman, they're so going to be up for a gamble if they've got something out of it, because it is a habit of gambling. But I feel there are many ways of how this game could have adapted. It could literally just be from a drunken game of Truth or Dare, and this is how it started. It could be that a YouTuber behind the cameras thought that's a brilliant idea, took one fan to take notice, then another fan, then a friend, then a friend, then a family member, and this game has gone viral. But I also think there has been a few films released. I can't remember the film's name, but it had MGK in it, and one of the Franco brothers, and they had their phones and they would get sent a dare, and if they complete that dare they would get paid a lot of money. And so people were climbing buildings and jumping off the building. They were driving a motorcycle without a helmet, or with a blindfolded helmet, and they would get loads of money. So I would have thought that all these little things from around have all gathered together to create this one game, and it might not have been the Gambling Man, but it's all connected itself to create this game.
So, before we started filming, we done some primary research to look at, just to see what people thought of the game, to see if they knew the game. I decided to email a few people, like, just to see what they think we should be putting in the documentary, and what they could advise us. I didn't have many responses, but the responses I did get basically said that they would want to see two sides of the documentary, so it's not just people saying, I've seen the game, it's, I don't know what the game is, I do know what the game is, and they said try and get some examples in there so it's not just secondary footage. We also then did a survey. We all did different ones, similar questions, but some had different, and then we sent it to different people and we got as many responses as we could. The main questions we really wanted to know was if they know the game, the age, the gender. The main one for me was definitely to find out the age, because I wanted to know if it's secondary school kids and primary school kids or just secondary school kids. And the age that I got was between 16 and over like 20-year-olds, so I thought that was quite interesting. I also asked, because our main question was, do you think the game is dangerous and do you think it should be banned? So I put in the question, do you think this game could be dangerous? And pretty much everyone said yes. There was no 1% that said no. 100% of people that answered my questionnaire said yes.
The two main questions I wanted to answer were, where did people first get introduced to the game, and what were the riskiest things anyone had ever been dared to do whilst playing the game? For the first question, on where people got introduced to the game, most people said that they were introduced to the game during secondary school, so they were probably mostly around secondary school ages. The riskiest things people had to do were things like rugby tackle people, and someone nearly got beaten up after rugby tackling somebody. People were dared to eat chewing gum from under the desk, which is disgusting. There was an answer where someone was in America and local people introduced them to the game. One of the children wound up being dared to go a certain distance out to sea and jump off a jet ski and to swim back, but they were gone for a while. Everyone else got worried that they'd drowned or got eaten. It turned out that they were really bad at swimming and the lifeguard had to jump in to get them, so the game could get very, very dangerous.
Throughout the questionnaire, I had pretty much the same answers throughout my total of like 9-10 questions. So as I had people who heard the game already, or heard of it, and some people who have not heard of it before. One of the questions I asked was about what do you think about the game. I had various of the same points saying that they don't see the game. They see the game as it's dangerous, as it can damage themselves and others around them, and the environment which they're in, which I can understand. That's why we're trying to get across the message saying that, is the game dangerous, can it take too far, and asking different various questions like, if you were playing the game, what would you change, what rules would you change about them? And a few of the responses I had was, I would change it from an open-ended game where there could be any task to be completed to a card game where there are only a restricted and very specific tasks. Another one of my responses I had was only for friendship groups or families, not random people, because you don't know those people and they're strangers to you and they can do some crazy stuff, and you'd rather not get involved in that.
So, for the secondary research, we decided to look at some more of the subject information to try and learn about the game and to try and see where it originated from. We also decided to look at similar documentary examples to try and get some more ideas. So, for the subject information, We couldn't really figure out where it originated from, but a lot of people think that it came from South Carolina, but they don't really know for sure where it's like originated from, the game Odds On. And then we also, for the similar documentaries, we kind of looked at different things, like we looked at YouTube clips, we looked at the movie Jackass, we looked at Harvey Dent, and we looked at Friends for the gambling scene with Monica and Chandler, as you saw at the beginning of the documentary.
The dice man is someone who makes decisions according to a roll of a dice. Certainly adds a healthy dose of comfort, unpredictably in narrative. This direct quote from a statement from a review of a novel shows that the author shows its own experiences using a dice to make their own decisions for them. Under the influence of a dice, metaphorically resembling a small part of someone's life, can change the impact they lay out, as well as decision making. For example, whether you roll a 6 on the dice, you will eat tonight. If you don't, little things progress on to bigger decisions.
Okay, so I looked at a film, which was a film created around the game of What I Love. The film is a new film that was made in 2018, which is this year, called Odds Are. I found this film, I was doing my research on the site IMDb, that took my research to the film's main page. The source states that the film is based off of a true story and has the synopsis of 3 college students play a challenge game called Odds Are. It quickly erupts into a nightmare for the participants who find themselves caught in an unpredictable web of deceit and survival.
So now we're gonna discuss where we heard of the game, our views, and we're gonna answer the overall question what our documentary is based on, which is, do you think Odds On is a dangerous game and should it be banned?
Playing with my brothers, I suppose, because we watched a YouTube video which was created by, I think it was Awesomeness TV, and it was the band Hey Violet playing, and my brother kind of got the idea from that.
When was that?
I don't know.
Secondary?
Yeah, secondary, I think.
Well, I only recently heard of the game. I heard of it from Janie because she was talking about how she was playing it with her brother, and I asked her what was she playing. She explained what the game was. She explained that basically what you do is the dare and the dairy countdown from 3 from 1 to 10 and that. And I thought it was quite interesting because obviously I never really heard of it, and then she was like, oh yeah, no, I played with my brother and we did odds for him learning the Bet On It dance from High School Musical. So that's how I heard of it. So I only heard of it like a month or so ago.
I heard it in secondary school from other people in my year group, saying, oh, Odds On you, I don't know, picture going under the table or something, or Odds On to climb the fence and run away. We shouldn't really say that on camera, but yeah. I never participated in any of them. No, it's not my thing to do.
When was that?
Secondary school.
Yeah, but what year?
Year 8. I was about 12.
No, I don't think I've ever played the game. I don't think I played it. You've played it.
I've never played it. I never wanted to really, because I think the dares got too extreme sometimes.
Actually, I think I have heard of it before. Thinking about it, because obviously I didn't really know what it was back then, but in secondary school there was a lot of people doing random dares, but they never was playing Truth or Dare. They kept saying odds this, odds that, and I didn't really understand until now. So I remember sitting in, it was a classroom at lunch, and me and my friends were sitting there, and then someone was like, what are the odds that you will sniff up spit? And I just remember going like, what? Like not really knowing what it was, but he did it, by the way, and it was disgusting, but thinking of it now, then I probably did hear about secondary, but not really knowing what it was until you explained it properly.
Do you think the game is dangerous? That's the question.
I think, yeah, no, I
think it can be.
I think it
depends on
can
who you're
be.
playing with.
Yeah.
What pretty much everyone we've spoken to said, if you're playing with the wrong people,
then you can get some serious.
Yeah, exactly.
And like what PC Terrence said about the blue whale thing, because if it really did originate from that, then it could end up with like major extreme dares and things that people have to do, which can like ultimately almost ruin somebody's life if you take it to the extreme.
Yeah, I think it can be a game. It can be a fun game. Like, it depends. Like you said, like everyone has said, it depends on who you're playing with. Like, if you're playing with someone that's innocent and it's just like, oh well, let's, I don't know, what are the
spoonful of Marmite.
Yeah, or like the cinnamon thing. Like, what are the odds you'll put cinnamon in your mouth for a whole minute?
I mean, unless you're allergic to it, then it's
yeah,
not
exactly.
really risky.
It just really does depend on who you're playing with, because obviously, hearing some people's views, like, I've been dead to jump off a building, I've been dead to do this. It really does depend on who you're playing with.
Yeah, even with your friends, sometimes they can take it too far.
Yeah.
Like, even your friends can take it too far.
Yeah, exactly. And
so, depending, like, if you know them well.
I think it can be.
And if you know they're not going to take it too extremely.
I think it can be an innocent game.
Yeah.
Because if you're just playing it at your house,
that's fine.
And there's genuinely like no hazards around.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there is the possibility for it to just be an innocent game.
Yeah, exactly. With the last bit of the question, like, do you think it should be banned? It doesn't matter if it's going to be banned or not. If it's banned, people are still going to play it. Because there are a lot of things that are banned, but people still do it.
Like
and
not most gambling, but quite a lot of gambling is illegal anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You got a lot of things like, I don't know, drugs and gambling, and you've got so much more things that are banned, but people I'm still going to do it. They're not going to change.
There are a lot of games in secondary school and primary school that were banned too. So like Bulldog and stuff.
Yeah, Bulldog was banned.
Yeah.
And people still wound up playing it anyway.
I still played it.
Yeah. Overall, basically, we think it's a dangerous game,
but it shouldn't really be banned.
It shouldn't be banned.
Yeah.
People still do it.
Yeah. It can. It's not a dangerous game. It can be dangerous.
It's not. It can be dangerous. It can be an innocent game, and that's our view, really.